This is the pre-recording of our fifth tutorial summary with the topic of professional futures and career stories. We aim for each summary recording to support our students in the internship, encouraging them to engage in discussion and interactive 5 tutorial classes and to share experiences and information during their internship with the support of a career consultant for feedback at the same time. My name is Bita Zaferanloo, a senior lecturer and convener of the Professional Internship Unit. I'm joined by Liz Crosara, a career consultant who will be facilitating and covering the topic today. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodian of the land on which we gather, the Wurundjeri people of Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Today's Career Stories Snapshot will unpack crafting your professional identity and career story, using an elevator pitch to tell your story, reflecting on your internship experience, wrapping up your internship.
So developing your professional identity is an ongoing process that will evolve throughout your career journey. We cultivate it by articulating our contributions to organisations and colleagues, our knowledge, skills, competencies, interests and values. Being able to articulate our identity allows us to demonstrate it to others through evidence drawn from a variety of professional experiences. Furthermore, our identity is shaped by our collaborations and networks within our profession, as well as within broader industry and professional association bodies. Our career identity is the meaning we give to what we do and why, our interests, our skills, our strengths, our motivations. It's essentially who we are and what we stand for, how we are seen as a professional in our field, ideally as both authentic and professional at the same time. The key steps in developing our career identity are articulating, putting our knowledge, skills, and competencies into practice, and actively engaging with the professional community and practice in the workplace through professional associations. In workshop 4, we spoke about the importance of our digital presence and being part of a professional community and contributing to our profession. And back in workshop 2, we spoke about understanding what we like and dislike, our strengths, our skills, motivations, values, wants and needs. These are key elements in developing our career identity. And how we then express these becomes our career story.
Remember the reflective practice model? What, so what, now what? Just as with that model, our career stories are not just about describing what we have done, but also making meaning of those experiences. What have they developed for you in terms of skills, attributes, your professional identity and development? Things you have learned along the way, perhaps. And then what do you hope to do with what you learn in the future? Telling our career story is about looking back on our past, considering our present, and planning for the future.
And our career story can be told through a range of channels, including the ones we have listed here. So certainly through introductions and just everyday conversations within our own networks, via more official ways through things like an elevator pitch. In your resume, so in the career objective or the professional summary section, and in listing your professional experiences, you tell your story. In your LinkedIn profile, so areas like the headline or the about section really speak to your story. And then in things like online applications, when you're asked, what do you bring to the role? Why should we hire you? Tell us about yourself. Those same kind of questions, even in interviews where we might ask you an icebreaker to tell us a bit about yourself. This is a chance to tell your story.
The stories we tell depend on context and the different audiences we tell it to. The focus of the story is key. Think about how your story would differ in a cover letter compared to an elevator pitch or an interview. Knowing when to focus on a particular aspect of your story is hugely important. Always keep things relevant to your audience and their needs. For this reason, your story will never be exactly the same in every instance, but rather customized to the audience you are telling it to. Consider how you would talk about your internship to your parents, for example, compared to an interview panel. They would be very different, I would imagine. The elevator pitch is a short version of our story or the intro to our story. It might also be called a 60-second impression or me in a minute. It is really the way you introduce yourself to someone you've never met, how you introduce yourself in professional networking situations. We call it the elevator pitch because it might be the story you present between floors 1 and 12 if you found yourself in an actual elevator with someone who could be interesting to connect with around your career interests. It runs off a present, past, future structure. What you have developed, experienced to date, current activity, and future aspirations.
So, in considering what you could talk about in regards to your internship experience, consider some of these points. Things like main projects you might have worked on or contributed to, things you enjoyed the most and why, skills that you've developed. Any key insights or lessons are always interesting for us to hear about. Defining moments, specific services or products that you worked on, aspects of team culture, what you've learned about the industry, about connections you made. All of these kind of things are helpful in terms of crafting your story. So it's a really good time to start thinking about developing your story or a series of short ones from your internship now that you can use for graduate interviews, applications, and via any networking opportunities. We've got a script here, and I would suggest you pause the video so you can read the full thing. It's worth putting something together, it's particularly why things are fresh in your head because your internship is recent, but crafting a similar story based on this kind of past, present, and future model would be helpful to do now. And don't forget that follow-up matters. Just as you're due to finish your internship soon, use the time to do some of these things. Try and keep your connections with your supervisor and co-workers. They now become part of your network. Keeping in touch also keeps you in the running for possible future opportunities, either with them or possibly in similar workplaces that they might have connections with. Connect to colleagues on LinkedIn and consider asking your supervisor for a LinkedIn recommendation. And remember to update your profile with your internship experience, including the project you worked on, skills you developed, key achievements, all those interesting bits about your experience that we want to hear about in things like interviews. Do all of this while the experience is recent, rather than dealing with it after graduation and then trying to remember bits and pieces of it. It can be really easy to forget about things you were involved with or people you've worked with. So that's the end of our tutorials. We hope some of these ideas we've presented have inspired you to take action. Before we finish, a quick word on career services available to you. So now that you've had this experience, has it changed any of your thinking about what you want to do? It's always worth having a chat to our career team if you have any uncertainty or just want some additional ideas. It might be about other experiences that you can gather along the way. So you can connect with our team via this QR code. on the left or the one on the right, you can access some really great career resources for more self-directed support. So I would strongly encourage you to consider booking in an appointment, 30 minutes, or accessing some of our careers resources, which would be really helpful.
This brings us to the end of today's summary video. So this is the last pre-recorded tutorial. Looking forward to meeting you all in our interactive tutorial 5 to practice these career-focused concepts. Also, we are going to act on the peer-to-peer support model evaluation. Thank you all. Thank you, Liz.
Thanks, Bita.